She stole my aisle seat on a 7-hour flight. So I gave her nonstop gas bombs as payback. I just got off a brutal 7-hour cross-country flight, and before I pass out from exhaustion, I need to get this story off my chest, because I'm still mad and low-key proud. So I, 33F, was flying Southwest. No assigned seating, classic, choose-your-own chaos airline. I was in the B boarding group, which usually gets me a decent seat if I play my cards right. Since I'm tall and like to stretch a little, I headed to the back to claim an aisle seat. Sure, someone would sit next to me eventually, but I was hoping to avoid total discomfort. Then enters entitled Karen, let's call her EK, stumbling down the aisle in a rage cloud. She was in the C group, which basically means you didn't check in on time, and now you're stuck playing Seat Roulette. She was already irritated because she couldn't find room for her oversized roller bag, and the flight attendants were nudging her to gate check it. After some loud sighing and huffing, she arrived at my row. I braced myself, thought she'd grab the middle seat and call it a day. Instead, she squared her shoulders, glared at me, and bellowed. Move. I blinked. What? I paid for an aisle seat, and you're sitting in it. Now I was confused. What? This is Southwest. There aren't any assigned seats. Are you stupid? I said I need the aisle seat. I almost laughed, but instead, I offered the middle seat and said, you can sit here if you want. A flight attendant walked over and politely asked her to take any available seat. That should have been the end. I got up to let her in, and, surprise, surprise, she plopped herself into my aisle seat without even blinking. I looked at the flight attendant like, seriously? But she gave me the look, the one that says, please don't make this worse for all of us. Everyone around us just wanted to take off. So I bit my tongue, sighed, and awkwardly stepped over EK, who wouldn't even scoot her knees in, and claimed the middle seat. I might be passive, but I'm also petty. And something about that middle seat triggered my inner villain. Now, full disclosure, I get gassy on flights. Like clockwork. I usually hold it until I can sneak off to the bathroom. But today? Oh no. Today, justice had to be served. About an hour into the flight, I leaned back, put on my noise-canceling headphones, and let the crop dusting begin. These weren't ordinary farts, mind you. These were jet fuel-laced, turbulence-powered, altitude-enhanced stink bombs. Every few minutes, I'd let one slip, silent but deadly. EK would start coughing, waving her hand in front of her face, shooting daggers at me with her eyes. I just kept reading my Kindle and bobbing my head to some lo-fi beats like nothing happened. By hour 5, she'd had enough. She slammed the call button. Can I move? I can't sit here anymore. The flight attendant, bless her, calmly replied. Sorry, ma'am, we're fully booked. EK looked like she wanted to scream, but I think even she knew one more outburst might end with airport security waiting for her on the tarmac. We finally landed, and since we were near the back, we had to wait to deplane. As a final farewell, I let loose one last grand finale. A cloud of vengeance. Vengeance with notes of airplane peanuts and rage. EK flinched. I smiled. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have gas pains after a flight. No urgent trip to the bathroom. I felt light. Free. Victorious. So no, I don't feel bad. Not even a little. Next time, maybe EK will check in early like the rest of us, peasants, instead of bullying her way into a seat and straight into a fart zone. She kept stealing my chips at work, so I swapped them with ghost pepper chips. Her reaction? Priceless. Never stole again. We've got a snack thief at work. It's a shared fridge situation, so stuff occasionally goes missing, leftovers, a yogurt here or there, but mine? Mine kept vanishing like clockwork. And weirdly, it was always the chips. Not the sandwich. Not the fruit. Just the chips. At first, I figured maybe someone just made an honest mistake. Similar packaging, maybe someone was rushing, whatever. I let it go, but it kept happening. Same brand. Same time of day. It got so consistent, it felt personal. I started marking my bags, watching patterns. And I noticed, every time a bag went missing, she stayed late. One specific coworker, always forgetting her lunch, always hovering around the break room around 1 p.m., always acting like she was starving, like the universe owed her a free snack. So I came up with a plan. I picked up a bag of Pocky Ghost pepper chips, some of the hottest chips you can buy without signing a waiver. Took one of my regular chip bags, opened it carefully, and swapped the contents. Ghost pepper landmines inside an innocent-looking snack bag. Resealed it perfectly. Next day, I packed my usual lunch, sandwich, fruit, trapped chips. Tossed it in the fridge and waited. Right around 1 p.m., I hear it, coughing. Not like a cold. Like violent, oh my god what's happening to me coughing. Choking. Throat on fire kind of noise. Water's pouring, a chair scrapes back hard. Someone mutters, "Are you okay?" from across the room. She comes back 10 minutes later, red-faced, eyes watering, totally silent. Doesn't even glance at me. Just sits at her desk breathing like she ran a marathon through a volcano. And me? I nearly choked on my sandwich trying not to laugh. That was 3 weeks ago. Haven't lost a single snack since. She ghosted me after making $6K, then begged me to stop hacking her site. 8 years ago, early in my freelance journey, I took on a quirky project. A woman selling handmade elven symbol jewelry wanted help creating a landing page for her small WordPress store. The niche? Pure fantasy fluff. But I was hungry for experience, so I said yes. We agreed to a performance-based deal, 5% of all sales generated by my landing page. No upfront payment. Risky, sure, but I was young, broke, and eager to build a portfolio. I dove in, wrote compelling copy, and built the page right into her WordPress site. She started running some Facebook ads a few days later, and to my surprise, the page started converting. I was watching her revenue go from $120 on day one to $200, then $360, and by the end of the month, it had brought in $6,000. I was ecstatic, not just because I might make around $300 for 2 days of work, but because it proved I could actually do this. So, naturally, I reached out with an invoice. Crickets. I followed up again a few days later. Nothing. Weeks passed. No responses to emails, no return calls. She was still running ads. I could see the traffic and sales through my access to the site's backend and Google Analytics. But she had completely ghosted me. 3 months later, out of nowhere, I get a frantic email. "My site is down. Are you doing this? Please stop." Now, let me be clear. I had absolutely nothing to do with her site being down. Most likely, her cheap hosting just glitched. But after being ghosted while she made thousands off my work, it was the universe handing me the perfect opportunity. But I couldn't go full revenge freelancer. No threats, no admissions, just enough suspicion to make her sweat. So I replied, carefully, "Sorry, but I'm not going to talk to you until you pay me what you owe me." Not an admission, not a threat, just vague and ominous enough to spook her. Minutes later, she called me, panicked. I calmly told her I still had access to everything, including her analytics, and I knew exactly how much money she'd made from my landing page. All I wanted was the 5% we agreed on, just under $1,500. She caved immediately. Within an hour, she wired the money and sent me a screenshot of the transfer. Then she asked, no, begged, me to please bring her website back online. I couldn't resist. I replied, "I had nothing to do with your website crashing. You should contact your hosting provider." That was the last I ever heard from her. And you better believe I kept the payment receipt, the emails, and the story, because it's still one of my proudest, pettiest freelancer wins. She made me drop my chips, so I exposed her secret. I was probably about 8 years old when this happened, and honestly, it still sits in the back of my mind like a bad taste. I know it wasn't my proudest moment, but here goes. There was this girl in my class, quiet, kept to herself. She had very little hair left, barely a few strands, and she always wore a cap. Everyone kind of knew not to talk about it. Maybe it was medical, maybe something else, but no one ever really asked. Now, as a kid, I never got snacks like other kids. Chips were a big deal for me. So on the rare day I actually had a shiny bag of chips during recess, I was ecstatic, like, this was the peak of my childhood happiness. Then, out of nowhere, this girl just walked up and smacked the bag out of my hands. No reason. No joke. Just pure chaos. I was stunned. My chips scattered across the blacktop like my little snack-based dreams. And I was furious, like irrational 8-year-old kind of furious. When recess ended and we lined up to go back to class, I was still burning. So I did something stupid. As we were walking in, I strode right up behind her and smacked her cap off. There was no wig, just her bare scalp, completely exposed to the whole class. I strutted back to my seat, still heated, but the moment the whispers started, the laughter, the pointing. I felt it. Instant regret. I knew I'd crossed a line, but I didn't say anything. I didn't apologize. I was already too far in and too proud, or maybe just scared. She quietly put her cap back on and didn't say a word. And for the rest of the day, I couldn't even look her in the eye. I still think about that moment. How anger and embarrassment made me act without thinking. She didn't deserve that. No one did. I wish I had said sorry back then. Maybe someday, I'll get the chance. He kicked my sandcastle, so I buried a rock inside the next one. I was about 11 or 12 years old, on vacation with my family at a lake in Alberta. It was one of those perfect summer days. Warm sun, cool water, and nothing to do but let your imagination run wild. So, I spent hours building this epic sandcastle. I'm talking towers, walls, a driftwood drawbridge, and I even decorated it with little seaweed trees. I didn't just build it on the beach. I built it on a raised platform made of flat rocks, halfway into the lake like a proper little island fortress. I was proud of that thing. Like, take a picture and show it to my future kids proud. Just as I was about to grab my camera, this older kid, probably a teenager, walked right up and kicked the whole thing into oblivion. No reason, no warning, just stomped it into wet sand while I stood there stunned. My masterpiece, gone. I was crushed. But more than that, I was pissed. So I hatched a plan. The next day, I built another sandcastle, but this time, I buried a jagged, heavy rock deep inside the base. I made sure it looked just as tempting as the first one. The towers, the bridge, the seaweed trees, everything. And wouldn't you know it? Same kid, same smug face, same stomp. Except this time, he let out a yelp. He hobbled away clutching his foot, and the castle? Still standing tall. After that, nobody messed with my sandcastles again. Now, years later, as a teenager myself, I still look back and laugh. I don't feel guilty, not one bit. That little slice of revenge. Totally worth it. Moral of the story, don't ruin other people's hard work. You never know what's buried underneath.